No, this isn't just another policy tweak. This could be the biggest shake-up to how we pay, file and think about taxes since GST first rolled out 2017 in that year.
And while we start with how much you'll be paying up starting today, coming up later, we break down the big moments, key performances, social media reactions and plenty of celebration memes. What are we talking about here?
Well, Pakistan came in with big hopes but left with bigger questions from face to power. It was total Indian domination that we saw last night in the Asia Cup face-off. Let's take you very quickly into this and more with the headlines. All right, first, GST reset. It hits our wallets, our breakfast, our bikes. Price drops in some sectors in butter, cars, soap, insurance and more. Big brands cut rates as tax reforms kicks in. What's cheaper and what's not? We bring you the full GST breakdown.
And then we go across to our person of interest this morning, Gujarati firepower in a Hindi soundtrack. We take you to the voice behind Dholida. And this on the first day of Navratri celebrations. Jahnvi joins us on vocals, culture, much more in just a bit.
And India beat Pakistan again. Abhishek Sharma, the man of the moment, Shubman Gill, both of them, their batting sets the night apart. It's a winning start, the Super Fours. It's a terrific win for India in Dubai.
Well, the biggest GST reset in years kicks in today and it could change the way we spend, we save and shop. It's called GST 2.0, a major overhaul of tax slabs across essentials, healthcare, insurance, vehicles, fitness, packaging and even what you eat for your breakfast.
All right, let's break it all down for you, starting with what just got cheaper. So first, everyday items, soaps, shampoos, toothpaste, they're now all going to fall under the 5% GST slab. Butter is down by up to 30 rupees. Essentials like paneer, roti, UHT milk, these are all fully exempt. Even electronics like TVs and ACs along with small cars now face a lower burden. Both Amul and Mother Dairy have already slashed their prices.
For the average middle-class household, these savings are real. FMCG cuts alone could shave off 500 to 800 rupees a month. Combine that with cheaper milk, butter, bread, even a morning coffee, it all adds up. Big-ticket buys like bikes or cars, the GST drop there could save you 40 to 80,000 rupees in one shot. The sharpest price cuts are in fridges, your air conditioners, your television sets, all of these electronic appliances, two-wheelers as well. But there comes a but. It's only for vehicles or two-wheelers under 350cc.
Even entry-level cars, so under 1,200cc, are now substantially cheaper. The biggest winner is you. If you have health or life insurance, that entire GST load is gone. Let's take a look now at something else. Top brands are passing on the benefit. Amul cut prices across 700 butter and spread products. Mother Dairy lowered prices on milk, paneer, even kulfis. HUL Hull has slashed rates on brands like Dove, Lux, Brew and Rin. P&G and Emami have followed the same model. Apollo Tyres is now up 2,000 rupees cheaper per tyre.
Across sectors, the shift is as big. FMCG, like I said, or fast-moving consumer goods are now in the 5% bracket. Bikes, cars, once again in the affordable segment, taxed at 18%. Agri-tools and irrigation gear is also down to 5%. Big boost to farmers and the agri sector. Fitness enthusiasts, again, more good news for all of you all. Spas, gyms, yoga classes are all going to be cheaper. Packaging material like paper and plastic has also come down to 5%.
The auto sector feels this very sharply. So Maruti Alto, Wagoner, Swift, they're all down by 40,000 rupees to 60,000 rupees. Tata Tiago, Renault Kwid, it's the same story with them. Tata Nexon's base variant is now up to 80,000 rupees cheaper. And SUVs like Scorpio, Innova, Krista, these have no more extra tax. They're now taxed flat, so at 40%.
But not everything got a break. Luxury cars still sit at 40% GST with no tax relief. So this is the luxury segment that we're talking about. Caramel popcorn, because of sugar content, stays in the 18% slab. Premium services and high-end electronics also didn't get full relief. And any product without input tax credit could still feel costly. There's also a health target here which you must not miss out. Aerated sugary drinks will attract the highest GST. Starting today, 40%. That's more than luxury cars. Flavored and colored junk foods are also on the radar, while unflavored or lower sugar items benefit from lower slabs. Lastly, processed sweets and confectionery are also under tighter scrutiny.
Okay, so first let's go over to Shantanu. He joins us right now. He's our reporter and he's going to give us a breakdown. He's standing outside a store, as you can see. Shantanu, good morning. Coming over to you from the Breakfast Club. Tell us first, how is the shopkeeper who's standing in there? How does he look at all of these changes? Customers, are they already starting to filter in? How do they see this?
Oh, there is a lot of excitement here. Particularly we are joined by in fact some of the consumers, and let us try to understand from them that how exactly are they feeling this bonanza after the rates have been lowered down up to a much extent under the GST 2.0 regime, 2.0 regime. Sir, first of all, help us to know that what exactly do you anticipate about this GST 2.0?
This GST 2.2 will boost the economy as declared by Prime Minister yesterday. As it is, the rate is now only in 5 and 18%. There will be a lot of savings on the part of the common people, which will eventually boost the economy, and it's a gift for the economy.
Will it also boost the investment aspect?
Obviously, it will also boost the investment aspect, because as the savings will grow, some of the savings will go to the investment through mutual funds and other, I think. So it's a big boost for the economy also.
So our GDP is going to rise very smoothly after this GST 2.0.
I think we are well poised to take the challenges, and our GDP will grow hopefully, because right now our economy GDP is going steadily, and in spite of all the pressures put by the other countries, and it will grow, and by these measures and by the normal, because we normal Indians have a good habit of savings, so I think it will boost the investment, boost the GDP, and it's overall good for the economy.
So we are here at this mother dairy shop, and you can see behind me. There are a lot of consumers. Exactly, they are buying the products, and let us talk to them and try to understand how do they feel about the GST 2.0. So how regularly do you buy your particular essentials from this mother dairy shop?
Almost every day.
So how do you feel from today? The rates have been cut down.
Yeah, that's a nice move from the government side. I feel the GST reduction will help us in getting our household goods managed, and our monthly budget will also get down. So it's a nice move. Let's see that actual taxation cut transferred to the audience or transferred to the target audience of government.
So particularly we are here at the breakfast club of our channel.
Okay.
So the breakfast meal is now going to become cheaper because the breakfast essentials are now actually becoming cheaper.
Yeah, true. So it will enable us to buy more healthy quantities at an affordable price, and will help us to getting more healthier.
And what about the GDP? The GDP will boom after GST 2.0?
I don't feel so. It again depends upon how this tax cut is transferred to the consumption increase in the say household. It will take some time when these effects will come into the economy. Yeah.
At the same time, I want to show you the new GST prices that has been showed up here. Particularly, if you can see that the UHT toned milk that is of 1 liter will now cost ₹75, and the old price was ₹77. And at the same time, if we talk about 200 grams of paneer, now the new price will be at ₹92, which was earlier at 95. And if we talk about the other aspects like butter, that is under 5% of the GST. So now butter will be costing around ₹285, and the older price was ₹305. And do remember, the UHT toned milk and the paneer 200 gram have been exempted from the GST, and now no GST will be taxed upon them. Back to you.
Chandru, very interesting how dairy shops have also put up these posters, really telling the entire story of before and after, and how much they're really going to have to pay up going forward. We see people queuing up already. It's breakfast time, so let's quickly take this conversation to our guest joining us. Thank you, Shantanu, for that quick update. Joining us this morning are Gurcharan Das, author and former CEO of Procter & Gamble India, and Nirupama Soundarajan, an economist and policy expert. Good morning to the both of you. Thank you for taking out the time. It's going to be an interesting day indeed. We're going to be going over to a GST conclave here on Network 18 too. But Ms. Soundarajan, if I can begin with you and ask you, really talk breakfast this morning. Normally, if we were to just do a little math, I don't know if you've already attempted it, but our viewers would love to hear from some experts on how much they're going to have to pay up for their breakfast, for instance, for going forward. What's your analysis? What kind of relief does this mean for the middleman in terms of a meal, let's say, to begin with?
Thank you. Good morning. And I think it's all good news in terms of expenses. See, your essentials, if you're looking at bread, if you're looking at eggs, and if you're looking at milk, I think most of your essentials, in that way, the prices have come down. It's a significant cut. Me being a South Indian, I'm still slightly irked by the fact that my dosa batter is still at 18%. That still hasn't come down. But notwithstanding that, but generally across board, I think it will lead to, I believe, at least a significant cut for breakfast, at least by at least 5 to 10% of their bills that they would otherwise make. And I think that's sizable if you kind of, on a cumulative basis, on a monthly basis.
Okay, so breakfast, largely good news. I'm very grateful actually that you pointed out that in some areas, because what you're talking about, dosa batter not going low, is going to affect all the states in the south. So let's just talk a little bit about that in a second. Let's go over to Gurcharan Das. He's also with us. And just to remind you, he's the author and a former CEO of Procter & Gamble India. Mr. Das, thank you for joining us here on The Breakfast Club. Mr. Das, if you could explain to viewers, when you first heard the headline, saw the numbers coming in, the kind of changes each sector was going to see, what was your overview as someone who's run a company as big as Procter & Gamble that has so many different sectors? I just want to understand from you, how did you see this first?
Well, I think it's good. 2 slabs are better than 5 slabs. We should move ultimately to 1 slab, which was the ambition. But actually, we could, in the near future, slowly move to a 7 and 15 rather than 5 and 18. 5 and 18 is a big gap. And there'll be a lot of pressure by people who are in the 18 to bring down, to lobby, to litigate, to bring their product down to 5. So I would say, and so that's one suggestion. Second, I'm glad that this is a middle class action. In our country, middle class and consumption are something, because of our socialist background, they are not particularly, they're not the valorized, and so it's good, but we shouldn't have too high an expectation for consumption to increase right away. It'll be a slow process. But the real concern I have is that still, there have been a lot of administrative improvements, but there's a lot more. Refunds take a long time for the poor storekeeper. And so it'll be much better. One day, our ambition should be, GST should be called good and simple tax. We need that simplicity which was achieved in the faceless assessments in income tax. We've done it in income tax. So the same thing, take out the friction, take out the corruption, all that is something that we should aspire to. And my final point is one. I like the expression Mr. Modi kept using, Atmanirbhar, Swadeshi, but to a lot of people, it's sending the wrong message. Meaning that, you see, Atmanirbhar can mean self-reliance and also self-sufficiency. Now, self-reliance is good, to have confidence in yourselves. That's good. But self-sufficiency, because we've been a protected economy, we were closed economy. From the 1960s onwards, we've talked about import substitution, etc. And this was wrong economics. The reality should be, and Mr. Modi actually means that, buy products made in India, produce in India. Yeah. So what we need to do is to open our economy, to bring in the big brands in India to compete with Indian brands. That is why the Indian brands that's how they will improve to world standards. Today, there's not a single Indian brand in the global market. Now, that's for a country of our size and our ambition. That's not a good thing. So, what we need is the idea make in India for the world. Every time he says it, he should say make in India for the world. And we can do it. And what is good about this Trump tariffs has really got us all riled up. But actually, he is asking us to do what's good for us, which is to bring down our tariffs, make us an open economy, compete, bring the best, the best classroom for learning to be a strong company is competition. And in competition, then we will innovate, we'll improve, and we'll become better and better. So, therefore, it's very important. No country in the world went from being a poor country to a rich country without exports. And today, our manufactured exports, goods exports, are only 2% of world exports. And so there's a lot of potential for us. And it's good, we have lifted 450 million people out of poverty since 1991. That's great. We have taken the middle class from 10% to 30%. That's good. Now we have, for 2047, we have to take that middle class to become a majority, to become 60%. To do that, we have to create jobs. 40% of Indians are stuck in agriculture. That's half the people that agriculture doesn't need. So we need to go through that factory stage. We need to create an industrial revolution. And so I'm glad because, in our country, this GST push is a very good thing because it makes people also realize that consumption is good. We are an ascetic country. The rishi, the renouncer is a bit of a hero in our country. Well, we need to understand that the middle class housewife is the hero in our country as a consumption-based economy. So that's my view.
We've really
So
given
many
us,
beautiful points. Yeah, I was like, okay, let's
so
go.
many talking points, and to each of those talking points, I almost saw Miss Soundarajan nod in agreement, partial disagreement. So I do want to go across to her to really come in on some of those points that Mr. Das has laid out for us, and tell us about that one aspect wherein he spoke of how this may really not bring about the kind of change we're expecting on consumption lines. Do you agree? Do you disagree, Ms. Soundarajan? What's the way forward? Where do we stand here? And also to take Mr. Das's point forward, it should eventually come down to one tax. How soon, if at all, you think that can happen? Are we setting a 5-year, 10-year timeline for ourselves? What are your thoughts there?
Thank you. I think if I heard Mr. Das right, I think what he said is it won't have an immediate impact on consumption.
Yeah.
But I think in the long term, it will be a slow
Because that's
process.
one thing that's being said. Every conversation, the one thing being spoken of is it's going to boost consumption immediately. So he wants to sort of settle the facts there. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
No, I don't think there's going to be an immediate boost in consumption for a very simple thing, because what one person consumes is not going to rapidly or dramatically change just because there's a change in GST. Your basket of goods that you're consuming will more or less be the same. Where one might find changes happening would be in your electronic sector. Now, that just because that's come down, you may see your electronic sector consumption finding a little bit of a boost, but your everyday consumption, I don't think you'll see an immediate jump. But I think that will happen. The boost to consumption will happen. It will be a slow process, and rightfully so. I think that's what one should aim at. I don't think an immediate jump really is going to take place in everyday products, except for electronics possibly. In terms of one tax, I think I don't see it happening for some time, because this has taken, I think, around 10 years. So maybe another 10 years before one looks at a single tax kind of process for GST, but because this is just now come in as 2.0. So if you're looking at single tax for GST, then you're looking at a 3.0, which will be at least another 10 years. But I don't think that's going to be feasible either. I don't think they would do that, largely because even today, if you're looking at it, while broadly it is a two-tax system. We still have the 40% luxury tax that still exists, and that's going to continue being there because we still have what we are defining as sin products, and I don't think that's going to really go away. But I did like the idea of the 7% and the 15%. I think he makes a very valid point that, the difference is rather huge today at 5% and 18%. And even if you don't probably see the 5% increasing to 7%, because that never really goes down well with middle class, but you could probably see the 18% coming down to probably 15%, which is a better way to handle it than maybe bringing it all down to a single tax of 15. So even if a single tax bracket of 5%. So even if the single tax is a little off, we may see a change of the 18% coming down to a lower rate in maybe 5 to 8 years, possibly.
Can I also ask you, Nirupama, your views on Mr. Das? Earlier when we were speaking to him, he painted, because Mr. Das, when you were talking about this, I was filled with a sense of fascination because your vision for India, where you were saying, the number one thing that India needs to focus on doing right now is not only exporting, but also becoming one of the world's number ones in one of these sectors. You don't hear India's name. So I want to come back to our guests right now. And Nirupama, I want to ask you, in agreement of that vision, because I'm sure you're also in agreement of that vision, do you think the necessary step is also what he was saying, which is allow America to enter, that they're asking for the right thing? Because there I have seen a lot of hesitancy. Some economists saying that, look, when this happens, America could flood our markets, it could harm our farmers. What do you have to say there? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Nirupama, this is to you.
I have two takes on this. See, the first thing is, I believe that there's nothing wrong for a country to place entry-level restrictions if that's what you want. Our problem in India has typically not been with placing entry-level, restrictions. It usually becomes retrofit restrictions that come in after a company comes in. So whether it's your large e-commerce brands, whether it's been your retail brands, entry has been allowed, vis-a-vis your FDI rules. But then once they come in, then the differentiated regulations kind of wreak havoc, so to speak, in the market. And I don't think that really works well. Once they're in any country, not just American, any kind of, any foreign company that comes in, once they're in, once they've set up here, ultimately any kind of regulatory arbitrage that you create will impact Indian people because they're ultimately employing Indians there. Right? And I find that to be slightly problematic. The second thing is, I think, it works both ways, and I think it works depending on sectors. The concern over dairy is not just in terms of whether they would be flooding the market, but it's also about what kind of feed the cows have there. So it's their entire veg versus non-veg milk that was kind of doing the rounds, I think, at some point. But competition will always be a worry, and that's something that has been a point of contention for any kind of entry of new businesses, new technology, so to speak, in India. And in most cases, they're also very strong vote banks. So which also means that they do hamper to some extent any kind of entry or any kind of, new way or new path to competition that may exist. I think Mr. Das is wanting to come in.
So the end goal, as Mr. Das rightly pointed out, should be Make in India for the world. How are we going to, really walk the path? How are we going to walk down that road is something that I think becomes very, very essential. It's a story that we have to watch out for. Mr. Das wants to come in. So we'll take a little bit of a breather because we also want to put out a few ground reports, really talk about the sentiment on ground zero, talk about automobile industry, for instance. I do want to in particular ask you about the aspirational middle class there. So let's play out this ground report. A major tax overhaul driving momentum in the automobile industry. The GST Council slashing rates for small cars and bikes. Hiked taxes on luxury vehicles, scrapped the compensation cess to small vehicles, now see lower prices, which has fueled customer interest and has in fact also given a rise to more bookings. While concerns remain over old inventory, experts expect smooth transition support. Akash gets us more details on how this is playing out overall. Take a look.
A landmark decision now in effect. A new tax regime fuels the automobile sector. The GST Council has cut slabs for smaller cars and bikes, hiked rate for luxury vehicles, and removed controversial compensation cess. The results already seem promising. Clear pricing, more affordable options, and a fresh buzz in the showrooms. Earlier, cars attracted GST plus multiple layers of cess. GST 2.0 has merged almost all those charges. For small cars, defined as petrol engines up to 1200cc or diesel up to 1500cc and length under 4 meters. The change means big relief. For larger SUVs, it translates into a straight but steeper 40% tax.
If an entry-level vehicle has to be purchased, a passenger vehicle, it used to cost 29%, which was 28% GST and 1% cess. It is now straight away coming down by 11% to 18%. So it's a huge discount or a huge benefit for the customer who wants to enter and buy a four-wheeler.
While the industry acknowledges the benefits, there is some concern over existing inventory that was procured with cess. Experts believe a mechanism will be provided to address this transition.
Post 22nd September, when we sell this to the customer, we will not be able to charge any cess from the customer because there is no more cess now in the new GST 2.0 regime. Hence, the cess which is remaining in our books is becoming a liability for us because we have taken inventory funding from banks.
At car showrooms, inquiries have surged since the announcement. Customers are keen to know the revised prices. Even though display boards aren't fully updated, showrooms have already begun offering GST and cess-free rates. Bookings are on the rise.
हम नए प्राइस उनको बता के उनको हम बुकिंग भी ले रहे हैं, कस्टमर बुक भी कर रहे हैं. शरादों का सीज़न डाउन तो है, बट इस वजह से हमारे पास नई बुकिंग्स भी आ रही हैं, नई इंक्वायरीज जनरेट हो रही हैं.
The removal of cess along with the change in slabs effectively means a double benefit. Savings are more substantial, often enough to alter buying decisions.
We were almost, going to give the check. We got this gift. The total difference in money was coming out to be something around 1.43 lakhs or something around that. And that much money in terms of percentage or whatever it is will go into the pockets of the citizens of this country and will definitely help the economy of this nation.
Analysts say the festive quarter could witness a sale jump of 15 to 20%. Showrooms are already witnessing long queues of inquiries and now await a full throttle momentum in sales.
Okay, let's go back to our guests. Mr. Das and Nirupama both remain with us. Let's go over to both of them to understand more about the way they look at this. Mr. Das, you before we went into that, you had something to say in this larger question of how do we actually transition. Today is an incredible day, but it's one step in steps that you believe need to be taken to make in India for the world truly. Tell us what it is that you had to say, because we'll come to you.
What I was going to say is the model I have was not to flood India with goods from all over the world. The model I had actually was that to me the iPhone production in India is the model. In other words, each chief minister of a state who wants jobs and prosperity should go to the top brands in the world. And these are all labor-intensive manufacturers. Ask them to produce in India and export out of India. That's what iPhone is doing. iPhone's production is only very small part is for India. It's all for the world. Now that we should become a manufacturing country. We have to still create an industrial revolution. No country became prosperous without that. We seem to have skipped from an green revolution to a digital revolution. And the manufacturing stage, the factory stage, we have skipped. So what I'm saying is, produce in India, manufacture in India. And today there's a disillusionment with China. A lot of big multinational companies are worried to have all their eggs in one basket. That's why the China plus one strategy is. India should be that one. Today it's not. It's Vietnam, it's Indonesia, it's Sri Lanka, it's other countries. And so we have to be competitive. And therefore, when it comes to GST, my other point is that there should be GST on petroleum. You know, petrol, this is a hard one because the states are going to protest and we'll need a big bargain with the center. We'll have to make a big bargain with the states. However, the the key point though is that petroleum today, the way it's taxed, it has a cascading tax. So tax upon tax upon tax. This makes our petroleum, our fuel prices uncompetitive with the world. And with GST, we will fix that. And that's where we have to become a competitive place. We have to be as good as Vietnam for the big producers, the big brands in the world. That's why Nike and all these Zara and whatever, they should come and make in India.
Like Tesla should allow make in India. that's one contention we've been seeing for a while now.
Correct.
Okay.
Tesla is only one of them.
Yeah.
But I'm saying very big brands are not here. They may be selling here, but they're not manufacturing here. And that should be our goal, become a producer for the world. So this word Atmanirbhar sends a wrong signal. Last night I was hearing the comments and people were saying, yes, we should buy Indian, boycott foreign. Gandhi said this. That's rubbish economics. I'm sorry. Real economics is to have an open economy. And that's how all the Asian tigers became prosperous.
Mr. Das, really like how you're literally putting out a vision there for the country to follow, for us to grow more, for us to grow better, get better in terms of self-reliance or Atmanirbharta too. Ms. Soundarajan, before we wrap up, two crucial questions that we must answer before we wind up, and we don't have too much time. So quickly, if you can come in on the aspirational middle class. Was meaning to ask you, for all those who are saying we were almost thinking, making up our mind to buy a BMW, for instance, but now post the 22nd, we're going to have to pay lakhs and lakhs more. So A, what happens to the aspirational middle class? And B, then we'll touch upon the question of small and medium businesses, and Mr. Das can perhaps come in on that. But yeah, tell us.
Okay, so very quickly, I'll comment on both and leave you some time. So if you're looking at aspirational middle class also, particularly with cars, even if you look at the cars, your luxury cars are actually going to cost less than what they did in your earlier regime. So even then, I think one does have something to celebrate. Secondly, I think in terms of what I really liked about how the treatment of tax has been this time is our definition of luxury has changed quite a bit. So for example, earlier things such as refrigerators and ACs were probably considered luxury, and they no longer are because they've been brought down. On the other hand, if you're looking at apparel, anything which is above 2,500 rupees goes into, for a single piece of apparel, moves into your higher tax bracket. I think that's justified. Because look, at the end of the day, it's the middle class that gets the benefit, and the government needs to reap in the revenue from some other places. So even without making it too difficult, I think they've managed to do that. So I don't think it's really going to be such a big problem. And for those wanting your luxury cars, it's still going to be cheaper than what they want if they bought it under the old regime. So I think they're good. But I think the MSME bit is what is actually very interesting. And I think the Prime Minister spoke about that yesterday also. And part of that is not just about lower tax compliance burdens, but it's also about how efficiently we are able to make the process. As Mr. Das very rightly said, it's about also, bringing in efficiencies in terms of refunds, in terms of filing. And if we are able to do that along with these tax cuts that we see, then I think the MSME businesses will reap the benefits of lower compliance burden. So I think that will be a very big bonus. Thank you.
Do you want to take the question that you wanted to ask Mr.
Mr.
Das
Das
too,
can
or
also
that,
come in on what more needs to be done for businesses, and also to talk about small and medium businesses. Mr. Das, is the rural India standing to lose somewhere here, especially with increased digitalization of the entire process? We must touch upon that one aspect too while we're looking at the larger picture.
Yes, I think let's talk MSMEs. Now, it's good. MSMEs are the job creators. They suffer a lot still from the Inspector Raj and the bureaucratic hassles. But we must not forget, we keep saying that the MSMEs will become the exporters to the world. The reality is MSMEs are suppliers to bigger companies. And it's the bigger companies who have to become the big brands one day, who are going to be the big exporters. The big job creation takes place in that way. That it's not the big companies who create the big jobs, but they are the buyers of MSME goods. That's how the economic chain works. So the myths we should break is India is a big market. It's a big country with wonderful people, lots of people, more people than anywhere in the world. It's a big potential market. Today we are still relatively small. So we need the world market. Second, MSMEs are good. We should take out all the friction out of their lives, but bring the big brands here to produce so that MSMEs can become suppliers to the big brands. Now, when the iPhone came, slowly the components, iPhone is only 15% is assembled of the iPhone in India. The components is where where the technology is, and where MSME becomes a supplier to a big producer. So, and that's begun to happen. So that's all I want to say, that the best way we can help the MSMEs is to get the big guys here, produce here, and let them, and our R&D spend, we complain that Indian companies don't spend enough on R&D.
Right.
Why should they spend when they have a protected market? You spend on R&D because you want to be superior to your competitor.
Mr. Das, we didn't even get to talk about the importance of R&D. We have unfortunately run out of time. We'd love to thank you for coming on, for sharing your vision. And Ms. Sundarajan, we'd love to thank you for breaking it down for all of our viewers. Thank you for joining us. We're going to head into a quick break now. We have run out of time. But on the other side, what are we taking a look at?
On the other side, we'll shift our attention to everything that's been ongoing in India ever since that great victory that's come India's way after thrashing Pakistan. Let's not forget the controversies that have been doing the rounds for the last so many days, but Abhishek Sharma, Shubman Gill's batting set them apart on the night. We'll take you through the winning moments in just a minute.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
All right, let's start this bulletin with the top story that we are tracking today. Starting today, consumers can expect major relief as reduced GST rates on over 375 items could come into effect. From kitchen staples to electronics, medicines to automobiles, prices are set to drop under the revamped tax regime. Launched on the first day of Navratri, the next generation GST, or what the PM Modi termed GST Bachat Utsav, marks a significant overhaul. Essential goods and medicines now attract lower taxes, with over 50 items moved to the zero tax bracket. Meanwhile, luxury and sin goods will face a consolidated 40% GST rate. The Prime Minister said that the GST reforms would not only lighten the burden on households, but also strengthen India's position as a magnet for investment and haven for the entrepreneurs. PM Modi also renewed his call for Swadeshi push, urging the people to promote Made in India products.
सरकार ने 12 लाख रुपए तक की इनकम को टैक्स फ्री करके एक उपहार दिया और स्वाभाविक है जब 12 लाख रुपयों का इनकम टैक्स में राहत हो जाए तो मध्यम वर्ग के जीवन में तो कितना बड़ा बदलाव आता है, कितनी सरलता सुविधा हो जाती है। और अब गरीबों की भी बारी है, न्यू मिडिल क्लास की बारी है। अब गरीब को, न्यू मिडिल क्लास को एक तरह से डबल बोनांजा मिल रहा है। हमें हर घर को स्वदेशी का प्रतीक बनाना है, हर दुकान को स्वदेशी से सजाना है। गर्व से कहो ये स्वदेशी है, गर्व से कहो मैं स्वदेशी खरीदता हूं, मैं स्वदेशी सामान की बिक्री भी करता हूं। ये हर भारतीय का मिजाज बनना चाहिए। हम नागरिक देवो भवः, नागरिक देवो भवः के जिस मंत्र के साथ आगे बढ़ रहे हैं, नेक्स्ट जनरेशन जीएसटी रिफॉर्म में इसकी साफ झलक दिखाई देती है। अगर हम इनकम टैक्स में छूट और जीएसटी में छूट को जोड़ दें तो एक साल में जो निर्णय हुए हैं उससे देश के लोगों को 2.5 लाख करोड़ रुपए से ज्यादा की बचत होगी। और तभी तो मैं कह रहा हूं ये बचत उत्सव है। साथियों, विकसित भारत के लक्ष्य तक पहुंचने के लिए हमें आत्मनिर्भरता के रास्ते पर चलना ही होगा।
अभी तमाम रिफॉर्म्स हुए हैं, मगर थोड़ा सा मैं बात करना चाह रहा था इकोनॉमिक रिफॉर्म्स जो हुए हैं मोदी जी के अंडर। अभी हाल फिलहाल में जीएसटी का रैशनलाइजेशन हुआ है, बहुत बड़ा रिफॉर्म है। इनकम टैक्स को रेट्स को कमी आई है, पिछले बजट में बहुत बड़ा रिफॉर्म है। कॉर्पोरेट रेट टैक्स कट किया। तो इन रिफॉर्म्स के पीछे क्या विजन था, क्या थिंकिंग थी मोदी जी की?
देखिए, आप जीएसटी के अभी हुए सुधार के बारे में मैं बाद में बात करूंगा। जीएसटी की चर्चा कांग्रेस की सरकार थी तब से होती थी। श्री चिदम्बरम वित्त मंत्री थे तब भी हुई, श्री प्रणब मुखर्जी वित्त मंत्री थे तब भी हुई। कई बार कांग्रेस से गुमराह कर रही है कि ये तो हमारा आइडिया है। ठीक है भाई, आपका आइडिया है तो इंप्लीमेंट क्यों नहीं हुआ? राज्य विरोध करते थे। राज्य विरोध किस चीज का करते थे? राज्य विरोध जिस चीज का करते थे वो चीज देश की जनता को समझनी चाहिए। सभी को मालूम था कि जीएसटी आने से राज्यों के रिसोर्सेस में एक प्रकार का रिजर्व होगा, कमी आएगी। वो कमी की भरपाई के लिए उस वक्त राज्य केंद्र से गारंटी मांगते थे, जो कांग्रेस ने नहीं दी, राज्यों ने सहमति नहीं दी और जीएसटी के रिफॉर्म नहीं हुए।
The GST reform, sir, do you think it has a long-lasting impact for the common man? How do you think it will pan out once it is, of course, it's going to get operative on 22nd of September?
GST is a very big reform. There are two elements to it. One element is basically reducing the rates on so many items, especially the items which are consumed by us from in our day-to-day needs. Second is the very old problems which we inherited from the excise, from so many different types of taxes that were there. GST simplified that, and this reforms basically further simplifies a lot many things. I would also like to point out one very important thing. Since 1947, when we have had so many prime ministers, did any prime minister put a large goal, a big goal like making our country Viksit Bharat? First time we have a prime minister who has given that goal, put a timeline to it, and has made all of us work in one single direction to achieve that goal. It's a very big, very, very big thing, and that's how big, if you look at the history of any country which has achieved a high level of development, they have all had a leader.
Okay, welcome back onto the world of cricket. India beat Pakistan by 6 wickets in Dubai, chasing their highest ever T20 international score against their arch rivals.
It was a fiery clash. It saw Gill and Shaheen spats, Abhishek versus Roff duels, and Farhan's provocative gun-firing celebration. But India kept their Asia Cup run flawless. Take a look.
A night to remember in Dubai. It was an India-Pakistan classic, and once again, it was India who walked away with the bragging rights, chasing down their highest ever T20I score against Pakistan to stay unbeaten in this Asia Cup. But this was a fiery affair. Shubman Gill and Shaheen Shah freely exchanged words early on, while Abhishek Sharma was in no mood to ignore Haris Rauf's taunts and gave it to him in kind, both with bat and his mouth. But what Pakistan opener Sahibzada Farhan did in Dubai was blatantly provocative and a controversial gun-firing celebration after he reached his half-century. And Haris Rauf took it one step further with another highly inflammatory 6-0 gesture to the Indian fans. There is no doubt these actions from the Pakistan players will spark an outrage. In the match, Suryakumar Yadav won the toss and put Pakistan in. A surprise move at the top for Pakistan, Fakhar Zaman and Sahibzada Farhan together, and it worked. Both came out blazing. Jasprit Bumrah went for runs and Pakistan looked in cruise control. Zaman's dismissal sparked debate, but Farhan's blistering knock made sure the pressure stayed on India. But the game flipped after the break. Shivam Dube turned destroyer, picking up 2 big wickets, while Kuldeep and Varun shut the door in the middle overs. And from 93 for 1, Pakistan suddenly crumbled to 115 for 4. Still, cameos from Salman Agha, Mohammad Nawaz and Fahim Ashraf dragged them to a fighting 171. India's reply? Pure firepower. Abhishek Sharma launched with a 6 of the very first ball. Shubman Gill joined the party and the openers piled 69 in the power play, 100 on the board inside 9 overs. At that stage, Pakistan was staring at a hiding. Gill fell short of a 50, Abhishek followed and Pakistan clawed back with Haris Rauf striking twice. Sanju Samson struggled, but Tilak Verma soaked up the pressure and finished the job in style, unbeaten on 30 of 19, hitting the winning boundary. India won by 6 wickets, their second win over Pakistan in this Asia Cup. For Pakistan, a night of what-ifs, a strong start, a defendable total, but too many waste chances with the ball. But for India, it's momentum, confidence and another chapter added to their dominance over their arch-rivals.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
All right, let's start this bulletin with the top story that we are tracking today. Starting today, consumers can expect major relief as reduced GST rates on over 375 items could come into effect. From kitchen staples to electronics, medicines to automobiles, prices are set to drop under the revamped tax regime. launched on the first day of Navratri, the next generation GST, or what the PM Modi termed GST Bachat Utsav, marks a significant overhaul. Essential goods and medicines now attract lower taxes, with over 50 items moved to the zero tax bracket. Meanwhile, luxury and sin goods will face a consolidated 40% GST rate. The Prime Minister said that the GST reforms would not only lighten the burden on households, but also strengthen India's position as a magnet for investment and haven for the entrepreneurs. PM Modi also renewed his call for Swadeshi push, urging the people to promote made in India products.
सरकार ने 12 लाख रुपए तक की इनकम को टैक्स फ्री करके एक उपहार दिया और स्वाभाविक है जब 12 लाख रुपयों का इनकम टैक्स में राहत हो जाए तो मध्यम वर्ग के जीवन में तो कितना बड़ा बदलाव आता है, कितनी सरलता सुविधा हो जाती है। और अब गरीबों की भी बारी है, नियो मिडिल क्लास की बारी है। अब गरीब को, नियो मिडिल क्लास को एक तरह से डबल बोनांजा मिल रहा है। हमें हर घर को स्वदेशी का प्रतीक बनाना है, हर दुकान को स्वदेशी से सजाना है। गर्व से कहो ये स्वदेशी है, गर्व से कहो मैं स्वदेशी खरीदता हूं, मैं स्वदेशी सामान की बिक्री भी करता हूं। ये हर भारतीय का मिजाज बनना चाहिए। हम नागरिक देवो भवः, नागरिक देवो भवः कि जिस मंत्र के साथ आगे बढ़ रहे हैं, नेक्स्ट जनरेशन जीएसटी रिफॉर्म में इसकी साफ झलक दिखाई देती है। अगर हम इनकम टैक्स में छूट और जीएसटी में छूट को जोड़ दें तो एक साल में जो निर्णय हुए हैं उससे देश के लोगों को 2.5 लाख करोड़ रुपए से ज्यादा की बचत होगी। और तभी तो मैं कह रहा हूं ये बचत उत्सव है। साथियों, विकसित भारत के लक्ष्य तक पहुंचने के लिए हमें आत्मनिर्भरता के रास्ते पर चलना ही होगा।
अभी तमाम रिफॉर्म्स हुए हैं, मगर थोड़ा सा मैं बात करना चाह रहा था इकोनॉमिक रिफॉर्म्स जो हुए हैं मोदी जी के अंडर। अभी हाल फिलहाल में GST 2 जीएसटी का रैशनलाइजेशन हुआ है, बहुत बड़ा रिफॉर्म है। इनकम टैक्स को रेट्स को में कमी आई है, पिछले बजट में बहुत बड़ा रिफॉर्म है। कॉर्पोरेट रेट टैक्स कट किया। तो इन रिफॉर्म्स के पीछे क्या विजन था, क्या थिंकिंग थी मोदी जी की?
देखिए, आप GST के अभी हुए सुधार के बारे में मैं बाद में बात करूंगा। GST की चर्चा कांग्रेस की सरकार थी तब से होती थी। श्री चिदम्बरम वित्त मंत्री थे तब भी हुई, श्री प्रणब मुखर्जी वित्त मंत्री थे तब भी हुई। कई बार कांग्रेस से गुमराह कर रही है कि ये तो हमारा आइडिया।
Welcome back. On the International Day of Peace, we thought we should reflect on how Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, a global spiritual leader and humanitarian, has shown that the voice of peace can silence the guns of war and the wounds of conflict. Across continents and crises, Gurudev's interventions in different manners have brought healing and hope to those who may have lost it.
Here are 11 moments where his message of non-violence resonated. Let's start with Ukraine, where even as bombs fell, 8,000 soldiers and civilians found inner calm through meditation and Sudarshan Kriya programs, bringing moments of peace amidst chaos. In Assam, for instance, 67 militant groups came together to sign the Guwahati Declaration, which was once again facilitated by his very organization. In Colombia too, the FARC rebels, once feared across Colombia, said meeting Gurudev was a miracle. They pledged to walk the path of non-violence inspired by Mahatma Gandhi. The story in Iraq was no different. Shias, Sunnis and Kurds sat at one table united by a shared willingness to listen when Gurudev spoke. And let's now talk about Kashmir. At Paigam-e-Mohabbat, Gurudev brought together Hurriyat leaders, soldiers, widows and families of slain militants, opening the door for dialogue and healing.
Then, of course, there was Manipur, where after years of conflict, you had 68 militants decide to lay down their arms. They said they were inspired by inner transformation and the promise of a peaceful future. In prisons worldwide, for example, if you just look at Tihar jail, and you look at prisons in Belgium and South Africa, where 7 lakh inmates have found mental freedom through different programs by the organization. If we take you to Muzaffarnagar, where there's been healing after the riots, survivors said peace will return now after conversations. You had the story of Yazidi refugees, where there was hope amid the horror. These are survivors of genocide, ISIS-led destruction, and Gurudev's volunteers brought trauma, relief and dignity. Then, of course, there is the story of Ayodhya, where mediation work took place with all sides. Dialogue and harmony was encouraged. We also take you to Paris, where leaders united before rabbis and imams from across the globe. There was one faith that was called for, walking together in the name of peace, the message that echoed everywhere.
So from dense jungles to bustling parliaments, Gurudev Sri Ravi Shankar's message remains unwavering. Only peaceful individuals can create a peaceful world.
War is the worst act of reason. When it comes to resolving conflicts and bringing peace to war-torn regions, the one name that resonates in the hearts of people around the world is Gurudev Sri Ravi Shankar. Gurudev has tirelessly dedicated his life to fostering peace around the world. Gurudev played a crucial role in ending the 53-year-long conflict between the Colombian rebel group FARC and the government of Colombia. He was responsible for getting the leaders of the two groups to negotiate in 2015, at a time when they were resisting all interventions by the international community. Gurudev did the unfathomable task of having the families of those kidnapped and killed by the guerrilla group meet with the FARC leaders, who expressed that today, with sincere humility, we would like to ask for forgiveness.
All right, and with that, we are drawing a show to a close. I'd also like to say goodbye to you. I will be moving on from this journey. But before I do, I want to say thank you not just to you, our viewers, those who tune in every single morning. I also want to say thank you to the entire team that brings this show together, that works every single day. We put together the guests through the day. We research our show, those who actually produce it, those who are sitting right now in the PCR, giving us directions at every moment, telling us what decision to take, the camera people right here in the studio with us, my co-anchor, our producer. A big thank you to all of you for making this journey so special. Goodbye, and I hope that you continue to enjoy and to learn with The Breakfast Club.
Brought to you by... This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
All right, let's start this bulletin with the top story that we are tracking today. Starting today, consumers can expect major relief as reduced GST rates on over 375 items could come into effect. From kitchen staples to electronics, medicines to automobiles, prices are set to drop under the revamped tax regime. Launched on the first day of Navratri, the next generation GST, or what the PM Modi termed GST Bachat Utsav, marks a significant overhaul. Essential goods and medicines now attract lower taxes, with over 50 items moved to the zero tax bracket. Meanwhile, luxury and sin goods will face a consolidated 40% GST rate. The Prime Minister said that the GST reforms would not only lighten the burden on households, but also strengthen India's position as a magnet for investment and haven for the entrepreneurs. PM Modi also renewed his call for Swadeshi push, urging the people to promote